Hello and welcome everyone. We've got Deimos rocking the Tech Marine, fighting the Eldar once again. I think Deimos is obsessed with this matchup. All I seem to be doing in my life these days is casting Deimos, fighting Eldar with Space Marines. But to be fair, Space Marines were the original main of Deimos. So it's nice to see him elevated to his true form these days. It's going to be facing up against Seraf. And yeah, we're on Fedrid Folly, which honestly I think is one of the better Space Marine maps, so I think Seraf has kind of got his work cut out for him here. I don't know how I feel about the Eldar Space Marine matchup. I'm afraid I've got a reserve commentary until I start playing it myself a little bit more, but I know the consensus now is that Tech Marine is very, very good against Eldar. I think with the garrisons down this side, the general large size of the map, which actually I find is quite nice for the Space Marine with his scouts, and it makes it so that shurikens can't really put that much work in on this map. And then also the distance from this gen farm through this sort of route over here up to the enemy, well obviously that works both ways. So what that means is that these farms are quite vulnerable to flame attack bashes. And if any of you guys play Eldar, you'll be well aware that the Eldar are not the fastest faction when it comes to bashing, so having a vulnerable power farm generally will favour Space Marines in this matchup more than it will favour the Eldar. But we'll see how things go. We got double Guardians coming out for the Eldar, which I think is 100% the correct way to go. If you don't go for those double Guardians, you leave yourself a little bit too vulnerable to heavy scout play. But Guardians are nice early on. Way less durable than tactical Space Marines, but they're cheaper and they do the same damage. So when it comes to dealing with scouts with their very, very low amounts of HP, Guardians are a very good choice. Does delay your gens, but I don't think generally that's too big of a deal. Now we see that Deimos has gone for gens sooner. Do we have upgrades? We have the Scout Sergeant coming out straight away. So there is going to be no way for him to deal with the Guardian early on. The Guardian weapons team, other than the actual grenade from this Scout Sergeant. But that of course requires a flank, and you can't just walk it straight forward or you will just get suppressed and killed. Now, imagine if we were playing on Jarilla's Forge, Quest's Heresy, a really tiny map where one shuriken could lock down a great portion of the map. Well, on such a map, this play from Deimos, going for the 2 gens early and scout upgrades, would be a lot less effective, because the shuriken will shut down most of the map. But you can see the map here on Fedrid Folly is so open, so wide, full of line of sight blockers, and so many different angles to attack from. The shuriken can't just position itself in a position where it can cover 50% of the map. It's going to have to keep constantly rotating. It's a constant little micro battle. And honestly, it's quite easy for Deimos to evade the shuriken. Just don't fight it. And he's building up his own economy. Look at this. Full gen farm up for Deimos. 2 gens now. Well, 2nd gen building for Seraf. So what Seraf could do here, you can see that Seraf is gaining the upper hand on the map control, and you would expect that because the shuriken is uncontested at the moment. But what he could actually do is he could do a full concerted push onto the gen farm, which could be quite successful. I mean, like I say, there's literally no counter to the shuriken except the grenade. So as long as you are privy to that grenade and you deal with that, you focus fire these guys with your Guardians, leap them with a wall perhaps to disrupt them, then you should be in a pretty good way. See how the shotgun scouts do against the Guardians here. Okay, they're not going to do too well. A little bit strange that the Guardians retreat there. I don't think they needed to, since they managed to kill one of the scout models. I think they'd have been fine actually, just shooting them to death, even if they got knocked back. Oh, it doesn't matter too much though, because the other Guardians are here. I assume these Guardians are then going to rotate around the side and cap the contested VP. We do see there was a bit of an attempted bash here, but Seraf wasn't aware that the scouts were down this side, so he left his shuriken vulnerable, setting it up in this direction. And obviously the scouts just came along, threw a nade in it, got behind it. No good. So eventually it is going to be the ASM for Deimos, and it's going to be Rangers for Seraf. I must admit, I don't really understand Deimos' build here. I don't understand why he has chosen to get these scout upgrades before getting the ASM. Maybe one shotgun or one Sarge, but to go for more or less both of them, I don't know, I find this weird. I don't like it. don't like it. Now this is a tricky spot for the Guardians because of the fact that they were knocked out of cover and these scouts had perfect green cover here. And now that the scouts have the sergeant, they will beat the Guardians with no aspect. In fact, they'll probably beat the Guardians with the aspect as well. You would need the Exarch in tier 2, and then you'll handily beat those scouts. And that's part of the problem with the scout play. There's a lack of scaling. You know, these scouts here with their sergeant and their shotguns, this is as good as they get for the rest of the game. You know, they don't get better, and the game obviously can go on a very long time from here. Whereas the Guardians, they really do get a nice power spike in tier 2, whilst they're still only doing piercing damage, which isn't great when it comes to killing tactical space marines or assault space marines. They do get a lot more damage and a lot more damage resistance, and it just makes them very cost-effective trading units against things like the scouts. Oh, clutch disruption there from the ASM. Wow, those Guardians were so close to finishing the cap, and now it's going to be bled models. Probably 3 models down. 2 models. Oh, he's going for the other jump. Is this going to be a wipe? No. 1 model gets out. Yeah. Still, that's 4 models down, man. It's expensive. Banshees are in retreat path, so the ASM get out of there. We notice the Merciless Witchblade now picked up by Seraf. Not sure how I feel about that right now. I don't think it's very necessary. Then again, I did see the Warlock got into a scrap around here and nearly cost him his life. So, you know, if the Warlock is... Ooh, we might see a retreat grenade here. Let's see, can Deimos do it? Is he aware? Nah, he doesn't bother. He could have had that. Just thrown it there. Could have had it. But I guess he didn't know which sort of direction the Rangers would take. So I guess, you know, if this Warlock has found himself in melee quite a bit, then fair enough, but I don't think spending 35 power on this upgrade right now is really necessary. I'd rather just get tier 2, and maybe later on in tier 2 get the Ethereal slash War Gear instead. Just seems an unnecessary expenditure. Grenade going in. Forces off the Shuriken. You see how the grenade has actually been dealing with the Shuriken more often than the ASM have. See, the Rangers weren't there, so it's quite easy for the scouts to move in. I mean, I don't even know if they've got infiltration actually. Is there a plus icon if they got infiltration? I'm guessing they don't because they were regenning very slowly. Sure. More bleed on the Guardians. Seraf needs to get the Exarch on these Guardians really quickly. He needs the damage resist and the extra HP. They're bleeding loads. It's hurting his wreck economy. It's going to make it harder for him to start spamming Wraith Lords in tier 2 as you often want to as Eldar. Nice flank here though with the Guardians. Warlock can come assist. Warlock actually bashes surprisingly quickly with this Merciless Witchblade. The combination of the Warlock and the Guardians here should be able to deal with these scouts. What the fuck was that? The crazy shotgun blast that somehow knocks over the Guardians. I still never figured out why that even occurs. Guardians at that point should have been meleeing the scout squad so that they weren't losing models, and then they stayed in the field and they could have continued their bash, and that would have been a nice little win for Seraf. So I know it looks like a minor thing, but technically he probably lost 2 models unnecessarily there, and now he has way less DPS to continue this bash, so he'll be lucky to get 1 gen, whereas he probably could have got 2 or 3 otherwise. And this is a bit of a tricky engagement here, the combination of the ASM plus the scouts. However, yeah, ASM now isolated against Banshees, not a good fight for them. Now they do well if they can get Merciless Strike off, they do well if they can land their jump on the Banshees first to knock them over, but just a straight up brawl? No. You don't want to be brawling against the Banshees, especially if you're the same level. It's not so bad if the ASM somehow are 1 level higher, because remember, that means the Banshees can no longer trigger specials on them. But when you're even leveled, there's more of these ladies than there are ASM, so the chance of the Banshees triggering specials is much higher. And yeah, they'll just dice you up with them power swords. Not a good fight there for Deimos. So we've got a lot of action happening all over the place, a lot of skirmishing. This looks like a really bad engagement here. Oh, a bug apparently. I think probably the knockback bug. I assume that was. When you attempt to retreat but you get knocked over, yeah, knockback bug. You get knocked over and you you know, you're hitting the retreat key, but it just ignores it. And the problem with that is that you gotta wait for your unit to stand up from the knockback, but during that time they're taking full range damage, whereas if they had retreated, they'd be taking 80% less range damage during that period. So yeah, that's led to the scouts dying there, which is unfortunate. I mean, it was a bit of an ambitious push really from the scouts in the first place. You know, trying to go for some sort of gen bash, I suppose, but encountering double guardians, rangers, and a shuriken, that was a lot of resistance to meet. And Seraf has got really dominant map control at the moment. 500 VP still for him to 183 for Deimos. We might see a wipe on the rangers here. There is probably enough energy for a second jump. Rangers are very low on HP. Are we going to go for the second jump? No, it doesn't look like we are. So it's going to be an assault cannon Dreadnought versus a Falcon. This is a really bad spot for the Dreadnought. Does Deimos just lose the game here? What is going on? Why have I got to replay it if it's this much of a stomp? What's going on here? Have we got missile attacks coming? No. Basic tactical space marines. Alright, well this might be a wipe on the Warlock. That is a wipe on the Warlock, so there's a pickup. And again, that Merciless Witchblade not really achieving a whole lot. Fire Dragons on the field now, but this is a really awkward engagement. Oh, not so much. There is a Bright Lance in the back lines here. There is a Bright Lance in the back lines, but Melter Gun and Missile Attacks take out the Falcon. Can the Bright Lance kill the Dreadnought in time? It does. Okay, good. So that, well, you know, good for friggin' Seraf. It wasn't a complete failure. So we're trading a Falcon for an Assault Cannon Dreadnought. That is actually a very good trade. Ah! Beautiful grenade there from the scouts. The ranger sort of waited for a moment thinking, which way do I go? Oh shit, I'm dead. And he's dead. So, dead rangers. We've still got Fire Dragons on the field, but Fire Dragons, you know, they're not Dark Reapers. They're not Warp Spiders. They're more of a... I mean, look, they're still decent against Space Marine infantry, because Melter Guns, you know, do full damage to all targets. And they've got knockback immunity, so they're a little bit more resilient than Dark Reapers to ASM. So we'll have to see how those Fire Dragons do. I am disappointed to see a lack of upgrades on these Guardians. I think that's going to be hurting Seraf quite a lot. The thing is, yes, the upgrades cost you money, but he's bleeding right now tremendous amounts of requisition because his Guardians are so fragile. Every time they get into some sort of engagement where they're being focused, they've got to retreat instantly. Or fear losing lots of models. I think fully upgrading them would be a great investment. Or at the very least get some battle equipment, because then you don't get the upkeep from the Exarch. It's 33% more HP, it's huge. Not to mention grenades, man. But this is a great opportunity for Seraf to get off a full gen bash. I mean, this is looking pretty bad for Deimos. Gotta say, what's going on down here? Oh, missile attacks. Taking the opportunity to get a gen bash off themselves. This is good play from Deimos, good awareness. Obviously he has no use for these in terms of anti-vehicle anymore, so what's the other thing that you can do with them? Well, you can go get a bit of gen bashing done. There's certainly good tools at that. I'm going to finish off this gen now. Boom. Very nice. Retreats out of there, no model losses. Webway gates are being discovered and are being taken out. What are the levels looking like? We've got level 3 tactical marines. Caught in retreat by the Banshees. Not going to lose a model. Level 2 tacs. Guardians not really doing too much. Yeah, everything else other than the Banshees level 1. Even the Warlock. Tech Marine on the other hand, level 3 for Deimos. Deimos going to replace the Dreadnought. What a bold move. There is still a Bright Lance on the field. You've got Fire Dragons with their anti-all damage. You've got Aspect of Strength Banshees, so they do heavy melee. Normally not so significant against Walker units, but if you do opt for that Assault Cannon, you lose your melee resist, so suddenly that heavy melee will actually be doing a decent amount of damage. A nice Merciless Strike coming in there from the ASM, which nearly evened out the fight, but I think with the contributory damage of the Warlock there with his Merciless Witchblade, yeah, not going to be a fight that goes well for Mr. Deimos. ASM getting disgustingly low there, losing their Sergeant and 2 models. That is super, super expensive. Not good.
We have 100 points remaining.
I mean, Deimos has got his friggin' work cut out for him here. He's going for the assault cannon once again. Perhaps if he can get some nice wipes on retreat with the assault cannon barrage, he'll have a chance. But there's a Wraith Lord coming out now. A Wraith Lord coming out. That's brutal. Brutal. Here we go. We got the Banshee Exarch moving in. We got the Fire Dragons on the field. Blessing of the Omnissiah, where are you? Where is the Blessing of the Omnissiah? I mean, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Wow, I mean, that is such a huge amount of bleed there. 4 dead Banshees in an Exarch. I mean, that makes up for the ASM having all their bleed, I guess. But here we go, now there's a Wraith Lord in the field. And remember, this thing's got the assault cannon, so it has no melee resist, so it's got absolutely no chance against the Wraith Lord right now. So the Warlock moves in, ties up the Melter Gun. Again, Guardian's getting wrecked by Shotgun Scouts. Gonna get wiped by the Melter Gun here, probably. Oh no. The Guardian's dying left, right, and centre. This is because Seraf didn't upgrade these Guardians, man. You've seen them retreating out there with so much HP. Imagine if they had 33% more HP. I'm sure they'd be great. Okay, the Banshees move in. Get a nice little scream off. Suppresses everything. Now, if the Wraith Lord had the Bright Lance here, this would probably be a dead Dreadnought. But unfortunately, Seraf can't afford the power anymore because, you know, Deimos has been working away on these gens over the course of this game. So it looks like there's not going to be any losses on either side. A few model losses, but no unit wipes. So compositionally, things remain much the same. Fire Dragons moving in with their Exarch. Should be swapping to their Flamer. Would bash quite a bit quicker, actually. A little bit of focus fire now from the Assault Cannon Dreadnought, but the good thing about Fire Dragons is they're heavy infantry in this instance. Often it can be annoying, but in this instance it will help them a lot when it comes to not bleeding against that Assault Cannon. Please get some upgrades. Yes, thank you. Warlock finally on the way for the Guardian Squad. Let's see, we're going to get the engagement here. This is going to be quite a risky engagement. There is a Warlock there and a Wraith Lord to counter-initiate the ASM. They need to focus on forcing off the Bright Lance, which they do. Not only do they force it off, they wipe it. A little bit slow from Seraf in order to counter-initiate. Tech Marine's there, working away at the Wraith Lord. Needs tying up herself. Wraith Lord now needs to turn around and contribute to dealing with this Dreadnought. So the Dreadnought's just going to force melee on the Fire Dragons. Makes sense, they're doing the majority of the DPS here. Yeah, but now they can turn around. The Wraith Lord moves in on melee. Nice nade spike there from the Scouts. Killed the Exarch once again. Don't know why he used the enhance on the Banshees when they don't even do heavy melee. Should have used it on the Fire Dragons to increase their speed so they keep up with this Dreadnought and do more damage. Banshees are going to be forced off here, and the Tech Marine is full HP, back on the field, ready to kill that Wraith Lord. This is now looking like a dodgy spot for the Wraith Lord. Fire on the move damage from the Tech Marine is too much, but of course he can turn around, time up on melee, that's going to help. Oh dear. You can't run away, you need to force off the Tech Marine. Oh, he had a reload! Oh, that was the worst time for him to reload, are you kidding me? That is so unlucky for Deimos. That was the exact moment when the Tech Marine had to reload his Melter Gun. I can't remember how many shots he gets off before he has to go for a reload. That was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Would have literally been one more shot and that Wraith Lord was dead. What can you do? Man's got to reload when man's got to reload, you know. So Warlock, using that Merciless Switchblade relatively effectively there, dispatches the Tactical Marines without too much issue. Going to be trading their VPs once again. For some reason they're switched. Gonna go back to their natural state of being. And a Razorback is going to be the play from Deimos. I mean, we can see now that the rosters are starting to slowly even themselves out, which obviously means that Seraf is taking a lot more bleed than Deimos. I have to question these. Oh, this is a bad engagement. So you've got the Merciless Strike on the Banshees, and then you've got all the ranged fire support to melt them. Not good. You just got to get out of there. This is the problem for the Eldar right now. Every fight they take, they're bleeding. That's another 2 Banshees down. I'm trying to think, what else do the Eldar even want? Enhance your Fire Dragons! What are you doing, Seraf? Why is he not using that? There you go, finally. Jeez. A bit late, now they're too far away though. They should just force melee on the Razorback. Yeah, looks like they have. Yeah, that's the dead Razorback. Ha! Nice use of that enhanced war gear there. Was a little bit late, but there you go. Wait, what happened? The Warlock died again? Fuck's sake, man. These Guardians have been bleeding the shit out of Seraf. Not gonna lie, man. I feel like all game they've been bleeding. If there's one thing that he could have done better here, it is definitely lowering his bleed on the Guardians. Cheeky little missile tax shot there going into the Wraithlord, but not going to be a threat. 130 damage from level 1 tax. Level 4 tax, what do they get? Like 30% more range damage, is it? I don't know, maybe it's not even that. So you're looking at like... Oh my god. $170 or something damage from a missile attack at level 4. So even then it would have been 3 more missile shots there to take out the Wraithlord. Not really too much of a concern. And it's going to be another Dreadnought. Well, look, the Razorback didn't do it, did it? So I guess another Dreadnought makes sense. Maybe you could go for a Melter Dreadnought this time, actually. That could be pretty good. I do like the combination of a Melter Dreadnought and an Assault Cannon Dreadnought. Melter Dreadnought obviously a little bit more helpful with dealing with enemy Wraithlords, and 1v1 a Melter Dreadnought is going to get wrecked by a Wraithlord because the Wraithlord just closes in and beats it up in melee, right? But when you've got missile attacks that also need tying up, and a Melter Tech Marine that also needs tying up, and your Assault Cannon Dreadnought can force melee as well, it starts to become a lot more of a serious threat. Here we go again, ASM coming to save the day. Will they get a nice Merciless Strike? No, appears not. Appears not. Decent little stun there and knockback from the attack. Banshees are way too low HP though. They're getting hit by the Melter and the Assault Cannon Dreadnought. Yeah, they get wrecked. Merciless Strike was a swing and a miss. Secondary Dreadnought is now on the field. Yo, this is looking bad for Seraf. You've got the missile attack still in play. The Autark is too busy trying to tie up the Tech Marine. No, why did the Wraithlord turn around? Oh no, it's dead. It's so dead. So dead. This is a GG. Wow, Deimos did it. There's no way Seraf can win this. He's got nothing. He has got jack shit. His units come out the web brigade here, he can go for the VP, but it's only going to be a matter of time till the natural VP is taken and the 2-1 in favour of Deimos should continue. Should.
We shall make it so.
Scouts going over to the southeastern side to see what's going on, probably try and prevent this cap. Make that VP drain even quicker. Oh, here we go, we finally see the Dragon Breath Flamer from the Fire Dragons. Gonna burn down those gens pretty damn quick. Warlock forced off by the scouts, no surprise there. But yeah, what can Seraf do? He's got nothing, man. He's got Fire Dragons, he's got a Warlock, and he's got Guardians, and he's got 2 Dreadnoughts to kill. And a level 7 Tech Marine, level 4 Tax, level 4 Scouts, level 4 ASM. This game, my friends, I believe, is over. Especially on a map like this where it's so easy to hold both of these VPs. Yeah, that's the concede. What a stellar comeback from Deimos. I genuinely was watching this thinking, oh my god, is this another replay that Seraf has sent in where he just stomps someone? he does a bit of a throw in the late game and they get 200 VPs back, then he finishes the game. No! He was stomping most of that game, man. Deimos was getting wrecked. Gotta admit, I do find the build of Deimos from the start very questionable. Getting all those upgrades on the scouts and delaying the ASM for ages. I don't feel like the scouts were really doing enough work to justify that. I think having ASM out sooner would have been much, much better. It also left Deimos vulnerable to a full push on his farm when he built these 3 gens super early, when there was no shuriken counter but the Scout Sergeant, and Seraf never was able to exploit that. The Merciless Witchblade did put in some nice work by the end of the game, but I think it was mostly in tier 2 where it was doing shit. So I think the Ethereal Slash Witchblade would have been just fine as well. I feel like there was another key moment. What was the other key moment? Oh, just freaking Guardians, man. These Guardians having no battle equipment all game. Taking ages to get the Warlock upgrades too. Massive mistake from Seraf. They bled so much. I don't even want to think about how much requisition he threw down the drain. Bleeding freaking Guardians. I mean, that's just more gens and more Wraith Lords, you know? But anyway, pretty crazy comeback to be honest. Classic 1v1 with double Dreadnought saving the day. I feel like SM do this all the time, especially that pesky level 7 Tech Marine. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and a comment because we've got to keep the views staying high so more people are aware of this content. If you want more of this kind of ting, then you can find it on Patreon. Torpid out.